A pleasant good morning to everyone joining us today for our final of a series of webinar for our Agriculture Month activity at the Guyana Rice Development Board. Um, Today, our presenter is no stranger to us, is no other than Dr. Mahendra Prasad, AA. Uh, Dr. Prasad is our uh, chief scientist and plant breeder. He completed his PhD and master's studies from the Indira Agriculture University in India. Uh, he also served as member to the several local and international bodies, such as he served as that board of director of NARI. He is also on several international commission for genetic resources for food and agriculture, where he represented Guyana at several of those forums. Not only his work was recognized in 2016 by the government of Guyana, where he was awarded a Golden Arrow of Achievement for his outstanding research as a scientist in the rice industry, resulting in the release of high-yielding variety that we are seeing the farmers now are cultivating throughout the country. And his work, he leads the breeding department, the breeding team, and his work has resulted in the release of 7 varieties in within a 10-year period. Um, Now we will hear from Dr. Mahendra Prasad about the finding on the testing of a new rice genotype, a candidate variety for commercial cultivation in Guyana. So this would add to his work. And now, without further ado, I now hand you over to Dr. Mahendra Prasad, who will deliver his talk.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajendra, for a very nice introduction. It is indeed a pleasure for me to come to this forum where I can meet farmers and other stakeholders of the industry, scientists also from wider field, to bring to you into discussion some of the work that the breeding team and the entire research station was involved in over the past years. And that is presenting to you some of the findings of a candidate variety, we call it. Basically, it's a new rice genotype that we are proposing for commercial cultivation in Guyana. Basically, I'll be giving you an introduction, then talk a little about our breeding program, and go straight into the results that we have gotten. Also, I want to mention some of the farmers' response and discuss seed stock that's available, and conclusion, and then recommendation for the new rice genotype. By way of introduction, we know that rice is crucial for global food security. Some would say that's an understatement, which is true. Since rice supplies over 20% of the world's calories. And that is to state that rice is ahead of wheat and maize. So internationally, rice is well placed. Locally, rice makes Guyana food secure. Guyanese consume a lot of rice. Our per capita consumption is over 80 kg. And we export more than 80% of the rice that we produce. Also, we have the farmers in our homeland amongst the more than 6,500 who cultivate rice and depend on rice. And the numbers is even larger when you look at those who depend on rice. Nationally, rice accounts for close to 4% of the total GDP and approximately 20% for the agriculture GDP. That was in 2018. I'm sure it's a bit higher for 2019. If we look at our rice production over the years, we have seen a constant increase in production to the end that we have seen in 2019, we have had over 1 million metric tons of rice. We have seen a continuous increase in production. This is because also when we look at our productivity, we can very well have increase in production by expansion of land, but we have seen the productivity curve is keep going up. In around 2005, if you look around 2004, 2005, the national average was just around 4 tons per hectare. And now in 2019, by the end of 2019, it's approximately 6 tons per hectare. This is a remarkable achievement for our farmers. Increased productivity is one of the ways we can sustain the industry. Over the years, simultaneously, as the productivity are going up, one of the pillars that are responsible for the increased productivity are the high-yielding varieties that we've been developing. We have seen during the 90s, we have released the 98 lines, which yielded around 6.5 tons per hectare. And then coming into 2008, 2009, we started with the GRDB 9 and GRDB 10 with higher yield potential of 6.5, closer to 7 tons per hectare. Later on, GRDB 14 in around 2015 and GRDB 15 in 2018, which has a yield potential of around 8 tons per hectare. So also as we are developing new varieties, we are seeing that they are genetically improved varieties. They can respond well to inputs and they are performing well in our local environment. The area under cultivation of these variety is varied. We have a champion variety, GRDB 10, which was released in around 2008, and it took over almost over 50% of the cultivation in no time. Farmers, and it is still one of our better varieties on the ground. However, we had some, not drawbacks, but we had some difficulty, some farmers having some difficulty in terms of lodging. It is not a variety that stood up very well in all conditions. Under some conditions, it will lodge, and that is known. Also, this is currently in 2020, the forest crop 2020, we have around 35% of the acreage with the GRDB 10. This is down from couple seasons back in 2018 when it was around more than 50%. As a breeder and the research team also, we are very much concerned, and anyone should be, with having one variety with more than 50% of the acreage. So in 2018, we are looking for varieties that are high yielding, farmers like GRDB10 very much because of its high yielding ability. It yields around 7 tons per hectare on a consistent basis, which is around 43 bags per acre on an average. So farmers are able to maximize their profits. However, because of the lodging and during damp conditions at harvesting, you can lose grain and lose profits also. In 2018, we have tried to find a variety, which we did, the GRDB 15. We have released for commercial cultivation, and we have seen it is increasing now to around 13% in the forest crop 2020. Still, our job is not finished. We would like to see about at least 3-4 varieties taking up the maximum percentage of the acreage. This will ensure us that we can remain secure in our production. There's a concept of genetic vulnerability. If we have one variety over 50-60% of the cultivation, and there is an outbreak of a disease, for example, blast, we could lose almost our entire cultivation, or even we lose 50-60% of our cultivation. It will affect our ability to serve our international markets. And this is quite important to us because we export, as I said earlier, 80% of what we produce. And if we cannot service our contracts, our market, our commitment, then we will not be in good faith with our partners. So our breeding program is geared to develop varieties that are high yielding and tolerance to lodging and have stable resistance to blasts. And the key, as always, being as we are exporting, we have to get excellent milling and cooking qualities. Also, I must mention our program has not been limited to high yielding varieties alone, but this is one of our prime objectives. We also are looking at specialty rice like aromatics, salt-tolerant varieties, and varieties to diverse our grain types so we could tap in on various market opportunities. So we have a few other objectives. So today we look on a new rice genotype that we've been testing for yield and lodging in addition to other characters. Some of you may be aware that the breeding program doesn't deliver variety within a short period of time. It is a painstaking effort from all involved. From the time we conceive an objective, it will take no less than 7 to 10 years to develop and to release a variety into the farmer's field, from making the crosses, acquiring the parents from different parts of the world, incorporating the different genes in our local stock, then go through the different breeding procedure, and then select the best genotypes, and then do all the various testing, coming on to the yield testing across the country, and then into the farmer field. Simultaneously, we have also been involved with international institutes such as FLAR, Fund for Latin American Irrigated Rice. We've been an active member since 2005, and they have been complementing our breeding program very much. And in fact, this line finds its origin or being a partner with FLAR to develop this breeding line into a variety. So we partner with other institutes to ensure that we achieve our objectives so that the farmers can have the best. So the testing line that we are looking at is FG12 259. it is FG, you have seen it is a Flour Guyana effort. And since 2012, we have been looking at this line, and it was the 259 entry that we have looked at that time. And I must mention my colleague Breda, Edgar from Flour, and Eduardo from Flour. They were very, very instrumental in us crafting the entire program, and they were with the testing all through. I will now go to some of the results that we have documented over the years. We cannot, it would not be possible for me to present all the results. I'm just looking at some of the main characters that would influence our decision whether we can go ahead to recommend this as a variety or not. But in observational yield trial, the results from forest testing in 2014, we have noted that this breeding line has some potential, as we have observed 9 ton per hectare, which is around close to 57, 58 bags per acre under local condition. Those were small plots, and those were estimates that we look at. The plant type was excellent, and when we did the milling and cooking qualities, they are good in addition to blast. So this breeding line, along with many others, were selected, and we have studied them over a period of time in multi-location yield trial across the country. And we have those trials amount to about 40 trials we have conducted over a period of 6 years across the country. So the data is quite a huge data set. I'm attempting to give you only the yield data here and some of the other, like lodging. Over the summary data for that, we have seen that the breeding line 259 has yield as good as GRDB 10, and then also the GRDB 15, which it was tested against in all those breeding trials across the location. We have tested at resource station in West Demerara, in region 2, particularly in Anna Regina and Backbush Polder. There were many entries in these trials, maybe around it varied between 14 to 18, and it was replicated 3 times. And we have seen an average yield from all those trials of 7 ton per hectare compared to a 6.5 ton per hectare with GRDB 10, and they're about 7 ton per hectare with GRDB 15 also. So we are very confident that this is a high yielding genotype and can perform well across Guyana in farmers' field. And the lodging also was very minimum. We had less than 5% lodging compared to the GRDB. It's similar to GRDB 15. So we didn't see over the years any significant lodging in this genotype. And those are 2 important final characters that the farmer looks at before he makes a decision. Yeah. This is the lodging tendency of the FG12 259 compared to GRDB 10 and 15. You see GRDB 10, there's much more lodging compared to the newer genotype that we are testing it against. If we look at some of the important features coming out from these same trials, we have looked at the plant height. It is slightly taller than the GRDB 10 and 15, but not by much. It ranges between 100 to 110 cm as compared to the GRDB 10 and 15, which is bordering on 100. So it can fit well in our production system. The tiller is between, it's around 370 tillers per meter square compared to the GRDB10 are approximately 400 tiller per meter square, and the GRDB15 at around 350 tiller per meter square. What does this mean? Is this a good character or not? We ideally do not want a plant to tiller too much and put all its energies into production of more tillers and doesn't give sufficient emphasis on production of panicle and the grains per panicle and filling the grains. So we want not to, and also not too few that we cannot, and a good estimate is between 350 to 400 seems to fit well in the direct seeded system that we have in Guyana. If we go at a lower seed rate, we might have a few more tillers that could cause more difference in flowering. But this is in line with what farmers would like to have. The maturity, it's approximately 110, 111 days. You see it is a slightly higher, well, significantly higher than GRDB10, but just by 2-3 days. GRDB10 at this point in time can be harvested between 105, 110 days. The GRDB15, it's approximately 110 days. And we have seen the newer strain that we're talking about here in 111 days. The range between 106 to 113, 111. So it is basically similar to what we have in Guyana. What the farmers like in Guyana. Mind you, farmers would prefer to have even a variety with less than 100 days maturity, which also is a focus of the program, but this is the earliest that we have at this point in time. And there was another whole length of discussion into how much yield we could sacrifice into coming earlier, but let's not get into that. The panicle length, on an average, for all these 40 trials that we have done, we have seen that the newer strain is slightly longer than the GRDB10 and much longer than the GRDB15. It is basically, the panicle length is significantly of the GRDB10 and the 259 is the same compared to the GRDB15, which is slightly significantly lower. So GRDB15 has a kind of shorter panicle compared to this new entry here. However, the GRDB15 has shown a significantly higher number of grains per panicle, and we have seen that over the past seasons. GRDB10 and GRDB, the new strain, produce similar number of grains. And we see that those are statistically the same. The GRDB15 has a higher number of grain per panicle. However, the GRDB15, the weight of the grain for GRDB15 is slightly less, with 25, around 26 grams per thousand grain, compared to the GRDB10, which is about 28, well, basically 28 to 30, and the 259, it's around 27 to 30 also. So the grain, yes, it's similar to that of the GRDB10. Spikelet fertility, I thought, is important for us to look at that, because GRDB15 had seemed to have a slightly higher level of sterility compared to the GRDB10. Even when we release it, we have noted that. However, the yields were coming higher than the GRDB10, so we went ahead with that. And still, GRDB10 and 15, we have looked at the sterility here again. In fact, the fertility of the GRDB10 is around closer to 90, whereas the the newer strain, is around 85%, which is excellent. And we have note again that GRDB15 showed a significantly lower level of fertile grains. Head rice recovery, it's The newer strain is similar to that of GRDB10 in these trials, and these trials have conducted in a wider environment and wider management practice. In fact, we try to, as much as possible, to mimic what's happening in the farmer field. And some of these trials, because they are not centralized at the resource station, we don't really get to harvest them at the precise, at the opportune time. Sometimes we harvest them a bit later than we should, and that would affect the milling performance of these strains. But nevertheless, we have still note that our head rice recovery from paddy is excellent. It's 55 for both GRDB10 and the new strain that we are talking about. And that is one of our objectives, to have varieties with higher milling recovery, head rice recovery from paddy. So it has fulfilled that. I'll show you later on in the presentation. We still can have better milling qualities or milling yields from this new strain. But head rice recovery from paddy is also excellent. With the new one is around 80%, and similar to that of the GRDB15 and even the GRDB10. The alkali spreading value, which is an indication of how the rice cooks, the gelatinization temperature, it is basically intermediate with around 4. Those that have score with 3 and 2, it's a bit tougher. It will take a bit more temperature will be required to gelatinize or to cook the grains for the starch to start loose. But this is quite similar for all the varieties that we have here, and this is similar to most of the varieties that we developed in Guyana. So it is in line. And chalky kernels, we have noticed it is very small. It is 2%, and that is the extreme. It is 0 to 2% overall, and there is no significant difference among all three. They're all excellent in terms of the chalky kernels. Those are from the yield trials. Still, we would have to study so many other characters, and we have looked up to the International Rice Research Institute for most part, and whenever we could try to do better, we try to do better. And we try to study almost every part of the rice plant that a character that is inherited, and we document it. And these are some of the characters of that was documented. It is important to note that an extra early seedling vigor was noted here, and I don't want to go one by one. And intermediate leaf senescence is quite an important thing, which is contribute towards lodging. Slow and intermediate, it is better than a variety. What does this mean? Leaf senescence is at maturity. The plant will definitely dry off in preparation for harvesting. So if the moisture and the plants in the leaves and the stems of the plants remove very fast, it gets very brown very quickly, and it could collapse, especially if it is a high performance variety. If it yields 7-8 tons per hectare, it will fall over under those conditions. So you want a plant type, a plant that stays a bit greener for a longer period of time, so it doesn't collapse very fast. So this is intermediate, and it fits well. These are some other agronomic and morphological character that was taken. One here that I just want to point your attention to, the panicle axis. Our farmers in Guyana are very, very keen. They would request you, and they have a very good tendency to like varieties that have panicle that are more upright, just slightly drooping, rather than a more drooping type of panicle that sits under the flag leaf and under the leaf. So they prefer a panicle at maturity that you can see on top of when you look at the the rice in the field, you could see only the grains. And what does it help to do? It helps them in management of the later season pests. For example, the paddy bug. They're able to, whenever they have to apply any chemical treatment, it is very effective. So the harvest index for this variety is 42%. What does that mean? It means, well, sometimes we look at the whole rice plant as what we grow and we harvest. We take out what only the grain, and the remainder of the plant we discard. What percentage of a plant is harvested and what percentage remains as waste in Guyana and many countries, it is not considered as waste. They started to use it in different ways. So the percentage of the harvest to the total amount of biological material that is there is the harvest index, and anything over 42 is considered good. If you have more of a leaf, you will have probably less harvest index, and you wouldn't want a harvest index of 35 or 38. You want it to be 42 and even more, so it have fewer left leaf material and more grains. Disease, and the chair of the session has done some work on the response of the FG12-259 to the disease that are very prevalent in Guyana, and we have found that this genotype is highly resistant to blast. And I must mention that in Guyana, it is very crucial that we have varieties that possess genetic resistance for blast, because the conditions in Guyana favor blast to develop to an epidemic proportion anytime. So it is very, very important that we have varieties that are resistant to blast. And I must say, it is not by accident this has happened. It is a true plant crossing and with resistant and susceptible parents. And also our colleagues I must mention our colleagues at FLAR is doing an excellent job in screening. They have many hotspot screening and selection there, and then the material will come into Guyana also. We have a similar situation here in continuously screening and also monitoring the level of resistance. So our chair is spearheading this part of the operation. And the other disease that are very prevalent is brown spot blight sheet rot. We have noticed it's moderately resistant. It is not resistant because there is no inherent genetic resistance that we have identified at this point in time, but we have known more or less they are basically tolerant to brown spot blight and sheet rot. And in terms of the grain, I just want to, I've talked a little about the grain. The grain length, well, the paddy grain length is around 10 to 11 mm, similar to that of the GRDB10. The grain width is 2.6 to 2.7 mm. The brown rice length and the brown rice width, and that's one way in which we look at, it's around 7.8 mm. And these are samples taken from our purest form of the variety, which came from the basic seed stocks. And we have noticed that the variation within the grain is basically from 7.5 to 7, closer to 8 mm. So we have an average of about around 7.8 mm. The important thing to note, 7.5, it has to be more than 7.5 to be categorized as extra long. And we see the lowest sample, the lower limit of the grain dimension that we have noticed is 7.5. So that put land us on the exact spot of not being an extra long, but most of the samples are graded as extra long. So I thought it's important for us to leave it as such and put the variation in bracket there. The brown rice width is about 2.3 to 0.5, and well, we have the length and width of the white rice and the 1,000 grain weight under an optimum condition. And I said earlier, it could go up to 28 to 30 grams per 1,000 grain. These are very important, and the grain length and the width fits our international market, and it's very suited for local market also. The grain qualities, we have seen the head rice recovery from paddy could go around, should be taken for around 58%, which is excellent, and plus minus 3. So it could go straight up to 60%, which is almost perfection. And on the other hand, it could come around 55%, which is excellent still. So we still can have good improvement if we have proper milling and good management on the ground. Because also it's not about when the samples that go in what the millers do, it's how the grains are prepared from the field going into the mills. So the nutrition have a part to play, and everything else, and the way it is handled getting into the milling system. Because once it reaches the milling system, there's so much the miller can do with his at his mill. Cooking, we have looked at the grain expansion at cooking. It is around 75% in grain length expansion after cooking, and width of 67%, which is excellent, and it fits well to the high quality of rice that Guyana has been producing over the years. The cooking time is, I'll consider it very quick, and similar to that of 15, I must mention, 15 to 18 minutes for the white rice, and for parboiled rice, 18 to 20 minutes. So those are some of the characters that we've been looking at. And then now let me go straight. Once we have seen all this information that I've shared with you, we have decided to go at an upscale testing. But first, before we went into the farmer field, we have grown, well, basically a 3 acres plot, which is just over a hectare at the rice research station in the second crop of 2019. And we have seen the yield. Well, here you got a glimpse of another breeding line that we are also looking at. However, this breeding line have yield better than the GRDB 10 and 15, and even the other breeding line that it was tested against in a 3 acre plot. So, and the lodging was very low. It's negligible. For the 259, there was nothing. At this point in time, we decided, based on all the information that I presented to you, and of course more, we decided to advance this breeding line for final set of testing in the farmer's field. And so as we were going in the farmer's field for the first set of testing, we also did a large-scale testing at the research station for the first crop 2020. And that's a 3 acre plot size, and we have seen the FG12 259 out-yielded the GRDB 10 and the GRDB 15 by over a ton per hectare, which over 5-6 bags per hectare, and the lodging was minimum. In fact, the lodging there was 15 compared to 10, 40%. And these plots here could have not given you a good estimation of lodging. Why? Because these were basic seed plots, and the rigorous roguing that we would have gone through could have caused little more lodging than usual, because we rogue straightways and then rogue crossway. So there's a lot of walking within the plot. But even to then, the lodging, the plant type hold very well. So at the same time, the spring crop 2020, we decided to go in the farmer's field on a small plot size of 100 meters square. 30 farmers were selected across the rice growing region 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. In fact, we intended to sow a trial or two in region 9 also, but we couldn't manage because at that time they had severe issue with water. So we went ahead at this plot size for the first crop, and in the second crop, after harvesting the first crop, this 100 meters square, we went at a larger plot size for this around 29 farmers, 0.6 hectare to 2.4 hectare, basically about 2 acres, 2 to 6 acres across the country. That is the season that just concluded. So the next part of the result that you're going to see, I'm going to first show you the forest crop 2020 result, which is in the farmer's field, and these are the small trials that were conducted in the 30 farmers field across the country in the forest crop. And then I'll look at the second crop results, which is the real larger on-farm trials that we have just harvested. So the yield performance, well, if you look at it region by region, we have seen there wasn't a significant difference in terms of which region yield better. Don't take the West Coast Demerara as the lowest yielding, because we had a trial there at Wales Estate, which yield a bit less compared to the other areas. So, but there was nothing into the performance of the new variety, the candidate variety. I must mention, at this time when we select the breeding line to go in the farmer field, we identify it as a candidate variety. It's not a variety as yet, it's a candidate. And if its performance is good, then we can release it or recommend it for release as a variety. So you will hear me talking about a candidate variety. It is the same breeding line that I'm talking, FG 12259. Now it has gotten the status of a candidate variety, and it's moving up quite well. Hope it can make it through at the end. The yield performance, I was just telling you about the Wales trial that we just got around over around 4 tons per hectare, but it was for all the variety. All 3 entries performed excellent throughout the trials in the forest crop. And we have seen here, this is the average grain yield. It was around 7.8 ton per hectare for the candidate variety, which is around, I think it's around 47 bags per acre in local terms, and GRDB 10 and GRDB 15, it's dear about just around 46, but there was no significant difference in terms of, you could say the one bag was significantly different than the other. All yield at par, account when we would have run the statistics. So that was the grain yield for the forest crop. What I'm going to adjust the grain yield and the lodging I'm present. The lodging, we have seen the GRDB 10 lodged around an average of 20%. The candidate variety was less than 5%, and the GRDB 15 stays on the 15%. So this was a good indication for us also. The interaction at that time with the farmers, and based on our own observation and the results that I've shown you here, based on this information, we went for a larger plot size, which is more reflective of what's happening in the farmer field. So there we went to the up to the 2.4, 2.5 hectare plot size. And we have seen here the performance of the yield, the grain yield performance across location. Some areas it is, and these here, for start with, let me don't confuse you more. These 4 set of data here for the second crop 2020, these are the estimated yields. So these are that we have went and harvested our subplots and did our calculation. And this is the yields that all these farmers we would have estimated that they have. And we have noticed that the FG12, the candidate variety, FG12 259, have outyielded the GRDB the GRDB10, but it was statistically similar to that of the high yielding GRDB15. Those are the estimated yield. The lodging, not much of the varieties lodge. We just have 1 or 2 locations, so that even the 10 lodge. So there was nothing into the lodging during this current season. The condition was well, and everything held up very well. See, there is not much of an issue with lodging. However, the final piece of information here, those were the estimated yield. For those farmers, I've represented about 25, 26 farmers here. These are actual yields that we have when the farmers harvested. We have taken the weight, the moisture, and they have dried. We have rechecked the weight, and they have bagged it and stored it at their home. And these are the actual yields that we have in the farmer's field for the crop that's just harvested. And we have seen a very performance in the entries range from 4.8 ton per hectare, so just over 30 bags per acre, to 60 bags per acre. Basically, we have seen 4 to 9 tons per hectare. That's the range of the actual yield. And that translates to about 30 to 60 bags per acre. Compared to the Czech varieties, it ranges between 4 to 8 ton per hectare. So around 30 to 50 bags per acre. This gives a better picture of the actual average yield that we have harvested in the farmer's field. And we have seen 6.977 ton per hectare average yield of all the farmers that was harvested, and it was significantly higher than the Czech variety, which is about 6 ton per hectare, and this close to 1 ton per hectare difference in yield. And it is significant, and which means a difference of about 6 bags per acre in local language, which represents about just a touch about 15% yield advantage over the Czech during our testing. So that's for the yield, and we must remember this. We did quite a few other studies, which I would not get into too much of details, but I just want to mention a few of them as we're going on. We did seedling immersion studies, and we have noticed and we have observed in the farmer's field also that you see the blue stock here represents the candidate variety. It performs well at 7.6 cm at locally 3 inches of water. This is ideal condition in farmer's field. So all 3 entries, the GRDB10 and the 15 and the candidate variety came through well, over 90% emergence from this depth of water. However, when we increase the depth of water to about 15.2 cm, which is around 6 inches of water, which is more the likely situation in the farmer field, we have seen that the candidate variety responded well. Again, it had given approximately 90% establishment emergence compared to the GRDB10, which is hogging just over 60, between 60 and 70, and the GRDB15 still doing well at this depth at over 70% emergence. However, when we look at a depth of 9 inches, 22, say 23 cm, we have seen, even to at that depth, we have seen a 70% emergence of the candidate variety, as compared to approximately just over 60% for GRDB10 and closer to 70 for the GRDB15. And we know that GRDB10 is a slow starter, and it comes through slow from standing water. And we also know that GRDB15 is one of the best that we have, similar to the rustic type earlier days, that will come through well from varying depths of water. And we have noted very clearly here that the candidate variety perform as good as the GRDB15, or even better in some cases. Well, in all the cases. So it is very safe to say this candidate variety can emerge well from standing water. The seed density evaluation, Dr. Payman have done some studies, and he had has concluded that around 112 kg per hectare would be sufficient for cultivation in Guyana, which is about 100 pounds. But that is under ideal condition. We may, at some time, depending on your land condition and what's happening while you're sowing or during that period, you can go up to 110, 120 pounds, but it should not go beyond. Evaluation for NPK, we have worked out that Dr. Payman indicated our agronomist, 100 kg N, 40 P2O5 and 40 K2O is sufficient for the optimum performance of a candidate variety. I just want to, well, I want to show you a lot of things, but just want to show you, in addition to that, the bulk density of the grade. We have found that the 259, the candidate variety, has a higher bulk density of roughly about, I think, 6.5 to 8.5% more than the GRDB10 and GRDB15, which mean that, and this is significantly different, higher than compared to the GRDB10 and 15, which this means that if a truck, well, in local term, we say if a truck is full to brim and give you 100 bags of GRDB10 or 15, the same truck full of the same way would give you about 105, 108 bags of the candidate variety. And that to show it's a bit heavier, and some farmers are definitely look at that. The dormancy behavior, we have studied it, and we are still studying it. We have noticed that within 7 days, the candidate variety will germinate, as compared to the GRDB 15 and 10, which takes around 2 weeks, and it could go up to 3 weeks, depending on the condition. But this newer strain has shown within a week you can able to sow, which is a very positive character for farmers, so you can get back quick into your lands. And even if you harvested paddy later in the season, you could to get it to go early back for the other season. The incubation, soaking and incubation, we have done a study here about, this is just one piece of the information. We have noticed that 24 hours is sufficient to soak, but we can also, if you soak up to 18 hours, there wouldn't be any significant reduction in germination. However, the present period of 24 hours to 30 hours seem we already have 90% germination. So we may need not to press for a 2 days period. A day and a half might be sufficient for this variety. So that's something that we will have that will benefit farmer a lot also in managing their cultivation system. We have developed during the process of testing some management guidelines, and we have said that the variety, the candidate variety, has an ability to yield 60 bags per acre, 9.5 tons per hectare, and under good management and so on. So we have listed some of the important management practice. We have developed a management guideline for us to use for the cultivation of this candidate variety. Once it becomes a variety, we will release it with the brochure, which will give you the guideline on what to do and when to do that. And I just want to look at some of the farmers' response during the trial, and particularly during the last stage of the trial. During the first stage of the trial, they said basically, this thing looked very good, and they want to see it on the largest plot. We went on the larger, well, that was part of the plan to have it on the larger plots. Excellent germination and vigor under field conditions. We have noticed that the farmers have, these are comments that came from farm. Ability to grow through flooded conditions. We have seen that plants canopy and covers the land very well. This is good for weed management. The plants maintain a dark leaf color throughout the crop. This is very, very peculiar. We have seen that all across the country, which is the plant type is very strong and it doesn't lodge. That was noted by the farmer all across. Good tolerance to delayed harvesting. Some farmers could have not harvested on the exact time. They waited up to 2 weeks and the plant was still standing on the field. The grain was still on the panicle and they still harvested an excellent crop. And panicles remain on top of the plant, which makes it easy for them to manage paddy bug. And also they mentioned that the grains are heavier than what they have in their fields compared to what they have. And the panicle has little wind grain, well, particularly compared to the GRDB10, and we have noticed that it's early material and better performance. And overall, they have said a better performance over GRDB10 and 15. So those are some of the comments coming from the farmer. During the harvesting, we would have gone through and note that it is COVID, it's still COVID, and we were trying to have interaction with farmers still. I think we were legal most of the time. And yeah. And these are the tail end when we were harvesting, and farmers look at the crop in the field and was requesting seeds for their farms to try. At the Guyana Rice Development Board, we have embarked on the production of basic seed and certified seeds. So far, we have just under maybe around 900 bags of high quality seeds in stock. We have in the farmers field from these trials, it's amount to over 3,500 bags in the farmers. So if this candidate variety would have go the length to release this crop, we'll have approximately 4,400, 4,500 acres under this variety for the forest crop 2021. Well, conclusions, well, we have said that as we go in, early duration, emerge for well, strong stick stem, better able to tolerate lodging, and genetic potential is 9.6 ton per hectare, and we have seen that's around 60 bags per acre. We have seen a significantly higher bulk volume density, excellent mailing and cookie quality. And finally, and it's very important that this candidate variety is completely different in its genetic makeup for all the other varieties that we have released this far. Thus, it provide a greater genetic diversity for pests and diseases for our farmers in Guyana. Um, uh, by way of conducting all these trials, I am in a good position of able to going forward now after your comments to recommend this candidate variety based on the results that we have and the response from various farmers, the extension, the researchers. We are in a position to recommend from a technical standpoint for GRDB to for this candidate variety to release as an official variety in Guyana in a very short period of time. The person involved there are so many persons involved in developing this variety, but I would really like to thank you would realize that we're just in COVID, and most of the extensive work that was conducted during the period of COVID time. The staff I cannot thank the staff more for what they have done. They have risked their lives many times going out there with the passion that we have to fulfill our objectives, to sow the seeds, to follow up data collection and everything else. And the farmers is on top of the list, because without them, we cannot be this far in our development of this variety. They have done an excellent job, and I must thank the farmers, and my respect and my regards to all of you who have contributed towards us reaching this far that we can make a recommendation. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mahendra, for an excellent, very detailed, and comprehensive presentation. This basically tells a lot about the level and the in-depthness of our research work carried out by the research arm of the Guyana Rice Development Board. And under the research arm of the board, we have the various disciplines that contributed towards this candidate variety to develop the package of practice. And these disciplines, for those persons who don't know, we have the entomology, who deals with the aspect of insect pest management. Plant pathology deals with aspect of the disease management. Then you have the agronomy, deals with the fertilizer and weed management. And of course, Dr. Mahendra, who leads the plant breeding team that deals with aspect of the varietal development. So without further ado, I'll now open the floor for comments, questions, and we would like to do this in a very structural way, where you show by raising your hands for those participants via Zoom, or you can use your the comments section or the chat from the Zoom, as well as our Facebook page, and we'll try to our best to answer all questions as it relates to the finding of this new candidate variety that is intended for commercial cultivation in Guyana. I now open the floor for questions. There's one comment from Cruz, who congratulated the work of Dr. Mahendra and team for an excellent work and excellent result. And this will surely bring some positive impact to the agriculture sector and industry in Guyana. So thanks for that comment. and we still have the- I see Mr. Siraj has his hands up. So the floor is over to you, Mr. Siraj. Please go ahead with your question.
Good morning, Dr. Prasad, Dr. Rajendra Prasad also. Um, it was a very well put together presentation. And as part of the breeding team from the Guyana Rice Development Board under the leadership of Dr. Mahendra Prasad, I can personally attest to the work we've put into this variety or candidate variety. And I stand behind him 100% with his presentation. And I can put my best to defend the results presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siraj, for that comment. And that is well noted by Dr. Mahendra and us here. Um, he, I think he already said in a very detailed way, he cannot thank everyone of us that contributed towards this piece of work. So I also open the floors. The floor is still open for question, comments, or any other as it relates to the presentation. Yes, we are still waiting for your question, comments. In the meantime, this is you can find this presentation on our GRDB website, our Facebook page, and as well on our YouTube channel. Feel free to download, save, view, and you can use as source of reference um, as needed. Um, Also, the previous presentation is also available via that mode. Um, and uh, you're welcome to share it so we can spread the knowledge to the wider population. I have not seen any other hands or comments. Before we close, I would like to ask Dr. Mahendra if he has any final word that you'd like to add. And then we will again give chance for anyone to have ask their question, and if not, we'll close the session.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think I could start the next presentation if you have time. But before we really part, we are providing more options for farmers to maximize their their yield and profitability in season by season. It is very important to note that while we are doing that, the call of the day is to have good management practice and looking out in terms of nutrition and day-by-day management in terms of all the agronomic parameters that have to be implemented and followed. It must be done in a precise, well, as much as possible in a timely fashion. And we must provide sufficient nutrition for the crop throughout so that we could have maximum yields. And also, whatever we're doing, we should do it in a safe way for the environment in terms of managing pests and diseases, because this is the call, and this will be our future direction. We will have to use less and less pesticides as we go forward. We'll more look at biopesticides, looking at the different aspects. And so I would like to urge our farmers and our viewers to ensure that we practice a high level of management to this variety that is coming and all the other varieties. So we could ensure that as we move ahead in terms of maximize our productivity, we can able to sustain it, because we can have very well a high performance in a particular season, and then we go back to the old way or even worse off in the following seasons. So we should able to improve our performance and maintain it. Let me stop there, and I thank you again very much.
Thank you guys once again, all our online participants and Facebook who are past participants. Again, I will encourage you to visit our page for these presentation. And this is our final presentation for this such agriculture webinar. And I must thank you guys once again. Thank you. Thank you.